Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on a Thursday morning. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about Justin Simmons. Obviously, he made some comments, was in the news, created some headlines with his conversation that he had when he went on the Up and Adams show. There have been people that have kind of been connecting Justin Simmons and Cincinnati. So we're going to be breaking down what exactly he said and my thoughts on that as well, whether or not I think that would be a good fit to bring him here to the Queen City. But before we get into that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up icon if you haven't done so already. As you can see, we are in a April like battle with our Ravens channel. Joey Peterson and those guys over there at Ravens Rundown. They are kicking our butts here in the month of April. It's still early on. They do have the bigger channel, but we can get back into this thing. We can make this thing close. Got to pop off on this video. Trying to get at least 500 likes on this one. That would be awesome. So help us out. Hit that thumbs up icon for me right now. All right, so Justin Simmons, a couple of days ago, went on Up and Adams, which, by the way, if you don't watch that, it really is incredible. Kay Adams does a tremendous job, and he told Kay Adams 3 teams that he would like to join in that conversation. Obviously, right now he is a free agent, and it doesn't seem like he will be reuniting with Atlanta. That appears to be kind of a one-year thing. Let's dive into what exactly Justin Simmons had to say in regards to kind of the state of his free agency at this point. A team that's going to give themselves a chance to go to the playoffs and go win. As much as I'll always be a Denver Bronco, I know the 8 years that I was there were rough, and not having a playoff appearance, especially coming off that Super Bowl and choosing Atlanta, thinking there was a shot there in the division. Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay have been doing really well in that division for a while, and so going to Atlanta, thinking there was a chance there to make something special happen. Teams like Buffalo, Philly, Cincinnati, teams like that have always been in the mix, and obviously Philly just winning it last year, it would be special. My thoughts around the corner, but first, the pinned comment of today's video. Do you have interest in signing Justin Simmons? I want to know what you guys think. Type Y for yes or N for no. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that is totally fine. You can ignore it, take advantage of it. Get down in the comments and let us know what you think. Look, I would love to bring in Justin Simmons. This is a guy that really, when he was playing in Denver, I viewed him for a part there as the best safety in the National Football League. And then, he signs that big deal with Denver, and then right before that last year of his contract, he ultimately ends up getting released, signs a 1-year deal with Atlanta. And by the way, he still had a solid year, I thought, back in 2024 with the Atlanta Falcons. Then you wouldn't have to draft a safety if you bring in a guy like Justin Simmons, right? I think safety really is a need on this football team. Not sure the organization necessarily feels as strongly about it as I do, but if you go out there and get Simmons, remember, you only have 6 draft picks right now, so you could spend time getting those offensive linemen, right? You could spend time getting some edge rushers, some linebackers, and not necessarily have to worry about that safety position if you bring in Justin Simmons. The defense needs another veteran. I've been saying this for a long time. I wanted a veteran to be brought in at that cornerback spot. Cincinnati opted not to do it. I get it. They were really, really busy this offseason dealing with the contracts of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, which, by the way, should have been the priority, and they were the priority, so I don't have an issue with that. But this defense needs another veteran. I think a guy like Simmons there on the back end, who, by the way, I still think has some game. I still think he has some to offer in this league. And you put him around some guys, put him in a situation with Al Golden, I really think he could flourish in Cincinnati, and I definitely would be on board with bringing him in. More on Justin Simmons here around the corner, but first we do got to give a shout-out to our friends over at GameTime, as today's show is presented by GameTime. GameTime makes getting tickets even easier and faster. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. Getting baseball tickets, of course, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They've got zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let GameTime choose the seats. Really love the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature up front allows you to see your total up front so you don't get hit with any of those surprise fees at checkout like some of those other ticketing companies can get you with. Also, the seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with GameTime. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, all guaranteed. All right, here is what he did last year in Atlanta. I love the availability there. 16 games played, right? He's the guy that can come up and be a willing tackler. Had those 2 interceptions. Was getting those PBUs as well with 7. Also was pretty solid in coverage as well, right? You know, he had those 7 PBUs, those 2 interceptions. Only gave up 3 touchdowns. Is he the same player he was in Denver several years ago? No, he's not. But I still think he is a starter in this league. I would expect, we'll talk contract stuff a little bit around the corner, I would expect him to kind of garner similarly what he got, when he signed last year with Atlanta. But we kind of will have to play through with that and see exactly how that goes from a contract perspective. Cincinnati right now at that safety position. You brought in Geno Stone in free agency last year with Baltimore. I thought it was a really bad year for Geno Stone. Did he come on at the end of the year? For sure. But you were playing weak teams with weak quarterbacks, and I think that certainly played a part in it. Jordan Battle, you kind of looked at him as to be that guy. He took over for Von Bell pretty much immediately. But then, he had some rough moments there as well before he, too, finished the season strong. So I do have a lot of questions there with Geno Stone. You also got to have depth, too, as well. There's a lot of question marks with those backups additionally. And Justin Simmons could be a good veteran presence that could come in and help you immediately. And I think he is an upgrade on Geno Stone, at least at this point. What's your confidence level in the Bengals safety room right now? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section of today's show. Scale it for me in the comments. 1 on the low end and 10 on the high end. All right, here are the top paid safeties in the National Football League right now. Again, Simmons signed that big deal several years ago with the Denver Broncos. He's not going to garner that size of a contract. I would be surprised at this point if he's signing anything beyond a 1-year deal. And when he was with the Atlanta Falcons, he signed a 1-year, $7.5 million deal. And I feel like that's probably in the ballpark of where he will be at as well. For this year going into 2025. Again, it is noteworthy here that we're several weeks into free agency, over several weeks into free agency, and he hasn't signed yet. He's kind of seems like he's going to be one of those guys that, plays on these 1-year contracts to kind of end his career, and he's certainly going to be chasing a ring. And as he talked about, he believes that he can do that here in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the whole gang here in place. This is what he had to say in regards to the Atlanta Falcons. I'd be surprised if he was back in Atlanta. He said, at the end of the day, I think highly of R.A., head coach, and Terry Fontenot, GM, and Arthur Blank, the owner, and I think the organization is top-notch. I do think they're going to be great. It was a 1-year thing. They like their younger guys, too. Sometimes things don't work out, and you have to go in different directions. I don't know if the door's necessarily closed, but we will see. Now, this obviously would be out of character, right, for the Cincinnati Bengals. They don't make these kind of splashy moves, getting these big-name guys in free agency. You could argue he's one of the biggest names still available in free agency at this point in the NFL. So it would be out of character for Cincinnati to make this move, but I think it would solve a lot of issues on your defense and allow you to kind of use those 6 picks in different areas. Do you want to draft another young DB, or do you want to put some stability back there? So an older guy that's been around the block that knows how to play at a high level and can certainly elevate you and just needs to be in that right fit, right, with a good team. And I think he could really take that defense to the next level. The Bengals need to add a veteran, and he is one of the best ones that you still have an opportunity to add at this point. But let me be very clear on this. The reason why Simmons is making these comments is because this is the Joe Burrow effect, right? If Joe Burrow is not in place here in Cincinnati, he's not saying those kinds of things. So I think as a fan base, we need to understand that, hey, this is pretty cool. Now, Cincinnati, it might be a small city in southwest Ohio, what have you, but as long as Joe Burrow is in place, free agents are going to want to come here and play. So it is up to the front office, to make those decisions and ultimately bring those caliber of players in. They have an opportunity to do so here with Justin Simmons. Again, I would be very, very surprised if ultimately he did come here, but I definitely think it is noteworthy to talk about. And talking about something like this with Justin Simmons, I don't think it is very far-fetched. I think there is a possibility that this could happen, but I would consider it kind of unlikely considering it is the Cincinnati Bengals organization. Make sure you guys hit that sub button if you have not done so already. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV. If Cincinnati makes any more signings or there's more information coming out about Justin Simmons, we will have you covered. Hit that sub button right now.